They said Cypress Hollow was the perfect place to raise a family. But that morning I found my pregnant wife collapsed on the porch, her lips pale, her tea spilled beside her feet, and the herbs she'd grown to ease her nausea reeked faintly of bleach. That's when I realized the poison didn't come from some stranger. It came from our own neighborhood, from the HOA president herself. My name's Ethan Mallory. I'm a county sheriff recently moved into Cypress Hollow with my wife Rachel, hoping for a quiet life before the baby came. I'd spent half my life chasing bad men through darker places, and I thought I'd finally earned some peace. But peace doesn't last long when power hides behind clipboards and bylaws. It started small, like it always does. One sunny morning, the HOA president Marlene Pike showed up at my doorstep. Perfect hair, pearl earrings, clipboard clutched to her chest like a badge. "Your wife's herb garden," she said, "violates HOA landscaping standards. Remove it or you'll face a lien." I stared at her then at the small planter box by the porch, basil, mint, rosemary. "You're calling that a violation? It's unapproved vegetation," she snapped. "They're herbs," I said quietly. "My wife's doctor recommended them. They help her keep her meds down." Her voice sharpened. "Doctors don't run this community. We do." That's when I saw it, the notice she handed me. Official HOA stationery, crisp, smug. And on the corner a faint yellow smear. Chemical. My instincts kicked in. "You're sure this came from your printer?" I asked. Her smile froze. "You're overreacting, Sheriff." "Understood." That night I sealed the paper in a plastic sleeve, marked it, and stored it in a locked box. Old habits die hard. Rachel hummed softly in the kitchen, slicing lemons for her tea, unaware that I was already building a case file, one that might save her life. Days later, another notice appeared in our mailbox. Same format, same chemical trace, but the wording: potential contamination risk. Immediate removal advised. Contamination risk. For a raised planter box. When I looked up, the street was quiet. Curtains drawn. Neighbors pretending not to see me. Something about the air felt rehearsed, like everyone had been warned. I walked down to the HOA office. Locked. A sign read, "Closed for maintenance." Behind the building, I spotted Marlene's black SUV parked behind the dumpster. Curtains drawn. Someone was inside. Hiding. By the time I got home, Rachel was pale and sweating. Said it was morning sickness. But I knew that look. It wasn't just nausea. Her skin was clammy, her heart beat too fast. I told her we should see a doctor. She smiled weakly. "It's fine. I just need rest." But that night I found another yellow-stained notice in the mailbox. And that was it. I wasn't resting until I knew what she'd done. Over the next few days I knocked on every door on our street. Most people were polite, nervous, quick to close the door. Then there was Sam Whitaker, 40-something, worn eyes, honest face. "She's been doing this for years," he whispered. "Picks a target, bleeds them with fines and warnings until they move out." "She's done worse than warnings," I said. "My wife's sick. I think she poisoned our soil." Sam went pale. "You can't prove that." "Not yet," I said. He stepped back inside and returned with a manila envelope. I kept records. Every violation she ever sent me. Dates don't match the meeting minutes. She fakes half of them. That envelope was the first crack in her armor. When I got home, Rachel was asleep on the porch swing, her favorite spot. The one my father built. The one I swore would only ever hold peace. But now, it felt like a crime scene. The next morning I noticed something strange about the herb bed dry soil, even though Rachel had watered it the night before. And near the back corner, a thin white crust. I scraped it with a glove, sealed it in a jar. Evidence. Across the street, Diane Keller stood behind her lattice fence pretending to water her orchids. Plastic ones. She froze when I looked her way. Later that day I walked over. "Nice flowers," I said. "They're fake," she murmured. "HOA banned real ones. Marlene said they attract bees." I leaned on the fence. "You've been treasurer a long time, haven't you?" She stiffened. "I don't vote on everything. I'm not accusing you. But Rachel could have lost the baby. If I find proof she was poisoned, this won't stay local." Her eyes darted toward the HOA office. "You don't understand. Marlene controls everything, the votes, the money, the maintenance records. She doesn't even show receipts anymore. Last time I asked, I got a citation the next morning. Paint color violation. I haven't painted my garage in 9 years. "Diane," I said quietly, "I just need the truth." She looked ready to break. 3 nights ago, she whispered, I saw her by your yard. She had gloves and a bottle. Said she was checking the fence, but the label was peeled off. That was enough for me. The next morning, Diane let me into her spotless kitchen. Too spotless. Fear clean. She opened her laptop HOA expense spreadsheets. 2 months ago, she said she logged a bulk purchase soil sanitation agents. No board vote. Just marked as emergency maintenance. The chemical name jumped off the screen. Chlorinated alkylamine solution. Chloramine T. The same compound that burns soil and sickens humans. I copied the file, sealed it, logged it. The chain of evidence was building. That night, Rachel collapsed again, vomiting, weak, barely conscious. We rushed to the clinic. The doctor frowned over the results. There's something toxic in her system, not foodborne. I clenched my jaw, didn't say a word. 2 days later, my friend Luis Ortega called. You were right. Soil tested positive for chlorinated compounds. Matches your samples, high enough to harm a fetus. I hung up. My hand was shaking. I'd seen evil before, but never dressed in pastel cardigans. Still, one thought hit me hard. What if I was wrong? What if my obsession with control, with being the law, made me see patterns that weren't there? Maybe I was the one poisoning this home with suspicion. Maybe Rachel's sickness wasn't sabotage, just bad luck. That night I sat on the porch swing alone, staring at the pond. The same pond that used to calm me now felt like a mirror showing everything I'd lost. Then I saw her Marlene walking her dog past our yard. No leash, just gloves. She looked straight at me and smiled, a slow, knowing smile. I stopped doubting after that. At dawn, I broke into the HOA supply shed. Chain-link fence combo lock. I knew the code. She'd yelled it once during a cleanup day. Inside, the air stank of fertilizer and rot. And there, half hidden in a cabinet, a gallon jug labeled cleaning solution. The cap crusted with yellow-white residue. Sam showed up behind me with a flashlight. You sure about this? Sure enough. I bagged the jug, swabbed the rim, sent it to the state lab under anonymous submission. 2 days later, Luis confirmed the match. The same compound, same signature. That's your smoking gun, he said. By sunrise, I had a warrant. We arrived at her house before the neighborhood woke. No sirens, no spectacle, just quiet steps on dewy grass. Her hedges towered high, a fortress of fake privacy. I rang the bell. The door opened. Marlene stood there in a silk robe, mug in hand. Sheriff Mallory. To what do I owe this visit? I held up the paper. Search warrant. Step aside. Her smile didn't move, but her knuckles whitened around the mug. For what possible reason? Luis's voice was calm. You're under investigation for environmental tampering and attempted poisoning. She laughed softly. That's absurd. We searched the kitchen first. She stayed silent, arms crossed, pretending not to care. But when we opened the cabinet under her sink, she flinched. Same unlabeled bottle, same stain. Upstairs, I found a private HOA ledger in her desk drawer, handwritten notes, addresses, citations. And then a page with my name, Mallory, pregnant wife, weak stomach wash, go easy. I didn't speak. I just handed it to Luis. He looked at me, then at her. We're done here. By the time we walked out, neighbors were gathering on lawns. Curtains parted. Whispers followed. The queen of the HOA was no longer untouchable. She paced in her doorway as we sealed the evidence bags. For once she looked small, powerless. Hours later, Diane called. She knows, she whispered. She's accusing me of betrayal. There's a board meeting tonight, executive session. She's panicking. You're protected, I told her. But she wasn't calling for comfort. I'm ready to testify, she said. I saw her do it. That was the moment everything changed. The next day, Diane gave her statement, calm, clear, and devastating. She described seeing Marlene crouched by our planter, spraying the soil under moonlight. She confessed she'd stayed silent out of fear. The prosecutor nodded. This supports the lab evidence. We'll move forward with charges: felony poisoning, reckless endangerment of a pregnant woman, and misappropriation of HOA funds. That night I told Rachel everything. She didn't cry. She just said, then finish it. The following morning we went back to her house, this time with handcuffs. Luis read her rights as she stood in the doorway, perfectly dressed, pretending not to care. You think you've won? She sneered. These people need order. After this circus, they'll beg me to come back. I stepped forward. No one begged you to poison my wife. She didn't reply. We walked her out in silence. Cameras clicked, neighbors watched. Some cried, others just stood still stunned that the woman who ruled them with citations and threats was being escorted away like any other criminal. When the car door shut behind her, something shifted in the air like the neighborhood exhaled for the first time in years. That afternoon, the state suspended the HOA board entirely. The new compliance officer addressed the residents in a crowded hall. For the first time, people spoke freely. They shared stories about fake fines, vandalized sprinklers, threatening emails. One after another, voices rose, no longer afraid. When it was over, I stood by the pond again. The same water that had once reflected fear now looked calm, clear, honest. Marlene Pike was indicted on 4 felony counts. Her mugshot hit the local news that evening. The empire she built on intimidation collapsed in a single day. I wish I could say it felt good, but it didn't. It just felt necessary. Because justice isn't about revenge. It's about restoring balance. And sometimes the real poison in a community isn't in the soil. It's in the people who think they own it.